Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're going to walk through a developer workstation setup. This will include setting up our terminal, downloading a few programming languages, and of course installing some tools and utilities that we'll constantly need. So with that, we'll start off. Let's visit the iterm2.com website. This is iTerminal 2. It's one of the better terminals that are used for Mac OS. If you are using a different operating system, of course, you'll have the terminal of your choice. With that, I'm going to go ahead and open up my downloads directory. And we're going to take iterm and drag that into my applications directory. Once in applications, I'm going to go ahead and scroll up and open up iterm2. It'll ask me to authenticate that. And since I've had iterm on my system before, it opened up my tmux terminal, but I'm going to go back down into the standard terminal, which comes with Mac, which is just a pretty bland Z shell scenario. So as we open up our terminal, the first time we come in here, there's no decorations beyond looking at what a standard Z shell profile looks like. So with that, we're going to first off, we're going to download a few fonts to make our terminal life a little bit easier. If you didn't see those in my download file, they are going to be Fira code. And we'll go out to nerdfonts.com/fonts download to grab those. Fira code is one. And then the second one is Meslo, which is just a little bit further down the page. And Meslo LG Nerd Font. Go ahead and download both of those. As you may have seen in my downloads directory, I have already downloaded those. So they come down in a zip file. You can double click and unzip them. Once they're unzipped, go ahead and go into that directory. Open Fontbook on your Macintosh. So you can go up to the search property and find Fontbook at the top of your screen. Right click and create a new library. Call this library, so double click on the name and call it Nerd Fonts. It'll be easier to manage this way. And then highlight all of the TTF files inside of the directory and just simply drag and drop them into your font directory. We're going to go back and do the same with Meslo LG. Meslo has quite a few more fonts than Fira Code does, because they have many more variations in mono-spaced fonts. So once all of those are installed, feel free to close Fontbook and close your downloads directory, although we will be back to the downloads directory. Okay, we're going to drop over to Z Shell, and we're going to go ahead and at the top, we're going to open our profiles. So here you should have a profile, and we're going to edit that profile. And as we go over to text, we're going to pull down and we're going to choose Meslo LGLDZ Nerd Font Mono. And you can set that to the size that you would like. I'm going to set it to 12 so that it's easy for you to read right now. And otherwise, I'm going to keep everything else vanilla for now. Now at that point in time, I should have everything set up and I can look in my directory. Everything looks like it's working well. My font should be showing up. And if it's not, you can go ahead and quit the terminal and then restart iterm. And again, I'll clear that out. Now what we'll do is install a utility called OhmyZShell. OhmyZShell partners in your Z Shell environment nicely. It adds the ability to add autocomplete plugins, etc., that are very helpful for you as a developer. So we'll go to ohmyz.sh/install. And then of course we're going to click on install ohmyzsh, and we're going to copy this command to run in our shell. So now what's happened is it went out to Git and it downloaded this repository. And I apologize, if you haven't set it up yet prior to doing this command, you should run xcode-select --install. That will install the command line tools for development on Mac OS, which include your git command, which is needed to download your Z shell repository. So once OhmyZSH is installed, we're going to add our first extension, which is a plugin. It is called Power Level 10K. You can Google that. All of these links are going to be in the comments. So we'll scroll down for a minute and we'll find the installation link. On the installation, we're going to choose OhmyZ shell. We're going to copy the repository to clone. Again, this is just going out to the GitHub repository and cloning the repo locally. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to follow the second instruction, which says in your ZSHRC file, which is your profile file for ZSH on any Unix or Linux-based system, we're going to take that command and we're going to replace it. I'm going to use VI currently, and then I'll show you how to use VS Code to do the same after we install VS Code. So VI //.ZSHRC and go down to line 11 here. We're going to comment that out and add in the Power Level 10K. Once that's done, we're going to source //.ZSHRC. What that does is it says refresh my profile. So I'm going to go ahead and restart that by saying p10k configure. And it's going to start again. So I'm going to say, yes, I see the diamond. Yes, I see the lock. Yes, I see an upward facing arrow. It's pointing to the number 1. Yes, the icons are close but not touching. 1, I'm going to say lean again. And 1 for Unicode. 1 for 256 colors. 1 for time font. 1 line. Compact. And then here is where I messed up, is I should have chose many icons because I prefer visual indicators of where I'm at. So I'm going to choose 2 there, and then I'm going to choose 2 for fluent. Then yes, 1, and yes. Now you can see that I went from having a sparse prompt to having a more decorative font that tells me, yeah, I'm on Apple right now, or in OS 10. I'm in my home directory. It puts a little home icon. It also puts the time on my timeline. But more than that is it adds decorations. So now if I go into my developer branch and I go to GCP, these are repositories that I maintain for Google Cloud. And I go into the LCOV coverage badge scenario, you can see that it will say, yes, I'm on the main branch. I can see that I'm in a GitHub repository. Whereas prior to doing this, I would have to use git commands and issue them to determine what branch I was on, etc. So this is just a nice way to visually identify where we're at. I'm going to go ahead and move back to my home directory, and we're going to move on. Now, one thing that happens with Mac in general is you can download all of your source packages and build them and install them much like you can in Linux, but sometimes we like to use a package installer. Most of the time what we'll do is we'll go out to brew.sh and use that to install things. So all you do is come over to brew.sh, you copy the command, and then you run that in your browser, and it will ask you for sudo access. And for me, it says, oh, you've already installed Brew. Great, dandy, and wonderful. Let's make sure everything's good, though. Once Brew's installed, the very first thing I install is wget, because it's a historic command. I'm very used to it over curl. And then you can just go brew install wget. And it will check the keg and say, okay, trying to reinstall it. But again, mine's already up to date. Brew is handy. A lot of things require Brew to do the installs. Highly recommend you installing it and running from there. Next, we're going to install Go. Go is a programming language that I personally am invested in because it is simple, it is lightweight, and it creates cloud native binaries that take no additional configuration or installation for your cloud sources. Most of the time you can simply spin up an operating system and then run your executable, which to me is desirable over spinning up an operating system, having 10 dependencies download, and then starting up and only to find out that things didn't quite set up correctly. So I do use Go quite often. We do teach Go in our class at woodstock.dev. So what we'll do is we'll go to go.dev/dl or download. It will bring you into all releases. For myself, I'm currently on an Apple OS X ARM. That's going to pull it into my downloads directory. I'll run that. We'll pull that over into the view. And it says previous install detected, which is fine. I'm going to go ahead and install for all users, which installs to user local Go. We'll install that. It will prompt you for your password, and all it's doing now is going through and replacing the Go packages that were already there with the latest version. So Go is very simple to upgrade, very simple to install. Okay, once that's done, we can go over to python.org. Now, you may already have a version of Python on your system that you can work with, and you can find out by saying which Python 3. For me, I have Python configured at version 3.11. You should download the latest Python that you're comfortable with, or whatever your company is currently developing with. Most are at 3.11 and above. Some are still down at 3.9, and some are still even developing in 2.0. I do choose 3.11, and we'll explain why here in a minute. But again, to install this is fairly simple. You go, and we'll go ahead and download another version and install it. So once the download is complete, we'll go ahead and run through the install, just accepting the defaults. Yes, I agree. Install. It will ask you for your password because it puts it in /libraries Python as the normal install path on a Mac. And you can have multiple versions of Python on your Mac. You definitely do not want to tamper with the Python that is installed on your Macintosh, as it can break your system, and they tell you so. Okay. So even though Python 12 is installed, if I go back to my environment and I do a Python 3 version, I'm still at 3.8 because I set that up on my development path. Okay, with Python installed, we're going to jump over and grab Visual Studio Code. So Visual Studio Code is downloadable from Microsoft. This is a great free utility to use for anyone who doesn't want to buy their development tools. I do, fairly highly recommend it. It does get a little tricky. Beware of the plugins that you install. Be thoughtful and think through things there. So here, of course, we would download Visual Studio for my Mac. We see that it downloads over here. That's the Darwin Universal installer, so that it would work for any system, and then it drops it directly into my downloads directory, and then I drop it over into my applications to install it. Once Visual Studio Code is installed, go ahead and open it up for the first time. And I'm going to pull up a blank window for you. As you do this, you'll see, you probably won't see all of these icons. You won't see a database, and you certainly won't see NoSQL, but you will see the standard extensions, etc. What I want you to do, though, the first thing that you should do when you do this is go ahead and hit Command-Shift-P, and then go install, and then as you look down the list of things that you can install, you should install command, and yours will say install code command path, and that allows you to install. So recently used, it puts it on your path in your profile so that you can execute it from your shell. Okay, with that now done, I'm going to go ahead and close Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to close my Finder. open up terminal, and now when we looked at this originally, we said, okay, I used VI or Vim to update my profile, but now with code installed, I can do code /.zshrc, and we can see that it opens up in a Visual Studio Code window, and now I can do any additional edits that I want to there. Okay. If you don't mind paying for your development tools, I highly recommend JetBrains. I can't say enough good things about this company. I have used them for a little over a third of my career in terms of development, but they truly do bring productivity to the table when it comes to their tool set. I use IntelliJ, I use Golang, and I use Python quite often for all of their dev tools, and you can see they've got PyCharm and PyCharm Pro. So great set of utilities, highly recommend. With that, we're going to finish out our terminal installation now. So we have added Python to our path, and we have Python 3 available as an executable. We want to add to that and make Python awesome. So what we're going to do is go Python 3 -m pip install, and we're going to install something called pipx, or the pip extensions, and it allows us to create additional executables on our path. So we're going to use that, and it used our cached pipx. Great, that's installed. And we can run through, and it's telling me that I need to update my pip3 for this particular install. I'm going to skip that for now. So with pipx installed, I can now do a pipx install Poetry. And Poetry is a wonderful package manager for building out Python projects. It's very modern versus setup tools, which was what we used to use. I highly recommend Poetry, especially if you're starting off in Python Dev, to create your Python projects. In other courses, we actually use Poetry to show you how to build those Python projects quickly. It's very worthwhile to use. Python is now completely set up. I've got Poetry installed. It's on my path because pipx put it there, and now I'm ready to go. What's left, though, is Go as a development language doesn't always it truly just sets up Go as a default language, but there are some things that you'll want to have on your system path, especially when you're using Visual Studio Code, so that you can actually control it, such as Go Please, which is a language server that Visual Studio Code uses to compile and use Go as its backend language. There's also Buildifier and Builddozer, and all of those are recommended and required in order to do that. So with that, we're going to go ahead and just run through a couple of different installs. So we're going to say go install Delve, Buildifier, Builddozer, unused deps, and Go Please. I'm just going to hit enter. That will download all of those to my home directory Go file, and then I can use Visual Studio to point to those to run them. At that point in time, I have a dev system that's set up and ready to go. Lastly, because we do install with Node.js, we're going to go ahead and go out to Node.js, and we're going to download. They've actually got a better way to install it than running packages nowadays. So you can go to download and use the package manager. This is very similar to Brew in terms of how it works. I recommend choosing an LTS version because that's what you'll mostly find on cloud environments. Some cloud environments keep Node up to date and current. So either way, it's up to you. Just look at what your cloud provider does first. I'm going to use 20. And then basically what we'll do is we'll just copy that first command. And this one's a little bit interesting because it's not as clear in their documentation. We'll go ahead and copy that, and that's brought it down, and then it's going to add some of this information on the back of our bash RC file. So now we need to do a source again. So I'm going to source my ZSHRC again, and then I'm going to run the next command, which is nvm install 20. And then that will download the latest 20 install, make sure that all of the checksums match, and put it safely onto my system. And now I can run node-v and see that 20.15 was indeed installed. At this point in time, I can program in Go, Python, or Node. I have an adequate IDE and development environment and a Python or a shell environment that works well. In addition, if you're a Java developer, of course, I have a Java install tutorial that will walk you through installing Java and Maven. And then with that, we'll wrap up this session. I hope it helped, and we'll see you next time.